We are now turning to the story and an apple that is much loved. People really celebrate the Bramley apple, but you one day picked an apple and tried it.
I must say I was not in love with the Bramley apple because I have 4 trees here which are about 70 years of age, and I picked these apples and they're enormous. They were huge and green, and I said, what a beautiful apple. And I took an apple from the tree and a big bite. Oh my God, I screamed because the acidity was all encompassing. It just invaded my mouth, just sucked the saliva out of my mouth. It was so acid. And so I tried to cook them. And what I noticed, they were horrible for tarts, they were horrible for tartatin. The Bramley apple, a lot of water content, high acidity. So when you have high acidity, lots of malic acid, and a lot of water content, it explodes. It breaks down so quickly.
Joan Morgan.
The Bramley really fulfilled all these Victorian criteria since for a good culinary apple, in that it's large, it's much more acidic than most of the other culinary apples. And it also has the property that the acidity doesn't fade. Many of these late-keeping culinary apples, by the time you get past Christmas into the new year, the acidity is fading. The sharpness is going down. The usefulness of the apple is going down. But this is not so with the Bramley, which really keeps its acidity. And it means that whatever amount of sugar or honey or syrup or whatever the recipe calls for, the Bramley comes streaming through, still tasting of apple. It's a glorious, glorious fruit.
So he should reconsider.
Yes.
The problem that I have with the Bramley apple, I still have, is that you have to add so much sugar in order to make it delicious. And sugar for me is an enemy of good health, an enemy of good taste. I want to grow some fruits which have natural sugar.
Hearing you tell that story makes me think that the Bramley became the successful apple it became because at that time Britain had an empire, it had sugar plantations in the Caribbean. Yeah. Lots of sugar was coming into the country, so the Bramley worked, which now we know is not a good thing.
You're right about
in terms of the history.
Yeah. Because it makes sense. Of course, you had the sugar, you had the empire. So, but for me, if you have to add 1/4 of sugar to anything, it's not something I would want to have.
Tell me about the moment when the idea for an orchard entered your mind.
Well, the idea came in many years ago, about 25 years ago to start with. The IHS, they came here and we do a testing of British apples. And I was completely amazed to discover some extraordinary fruits. But the first testing with the IHS was about 20. And one of them, I remember the Egremont Russet, I remember the Lamborn, I remember the Quarrenden, and I mostly remember the Cox Orange Pippin, which was for me an extraordinary discovery. To me, that's the best apple I've ever tasted. Be it French, English, German, but the best apple, because it had everything. The colors didn't look too good, okay. It was not an apple designed for show. It was an apple created for taste and textures, okay. And the crunch was extraordinary. The juiciness was flowing juices. Immediately this powerful, over-compassing apple flavor was there, clean and complex aromatics. This Cox Orange Pippin, not only it ate well, but it did the best apple tart Marmont Blanc, as good as a Renette Grise du Canada. For me, it is the apple which is yardstick for excellence, total excellence.
Quite right there, quite right. Superb apple, absolutely wonderful, absolutely delicious. I think it's because it has this really complex flavour. It's got lots of aromas in there. It's pretty as well. You know, it's golden apple with some colour, flush, and a little bit of russet. I mean, it really came to fame by the 1890s when England was then searching desperately for which apples to plant to meet the competition, which was then coming from America There isn't anything that can challenge its wonderful flavour when you get it at its best.
Now we've arrived at another tree, and this tells the story of your life as, I guess, 5 decades almost in Oxfordshire, and this is the Blenheim Orange.
Of course the Blenheim Orange means something to me because being a local boy with a funny French accent, because well, I've been 46 years in Great Britain, and Blenheim, of course, is very, very, very close. It's about 10 miles away. Okay, so everyone knows Blenheim because, of course, of Winston Churchill, with a Count of Blenheim, who defeated the French Louis XIV. So there's, again, a bit of entente cordiale past as well. Again, the Blenheim Orange, for me, is a beautiful apple. It's a big apple, beautiful colors. Again, that lovely yellow flesh, lovely. It's a good eating apple, crunchy, juicy, delicious. So it has got so many qualities. And again, you can see that rich flesh, good color, good, and good, of course, when you pick something from the tree, the freshness, the juiciness is something else, the crunch.
Oh, wonderful apple, wonderful apple. Glorious, handsome apple. Ripens to a golden colour with some red and some russet. It would, I guess, come into the category of dual purpose. The texture, when it ripens, the texture becomes a little crumbly, and it has this pure taste of fruit. It's sort of pure apple. Really addictive taste. Once you get hooked into Blenheim Orange, you love them forever. You know, you seek out a Blenheim Orange.